We've got just what you need right here at Femi Wash Media. Call it the Midas Touch, and you wouldn't be wrong. Let us record, produce, mix, and master your audio like nobody does. Reach us on our contact today for the best quality job.
My name is Shino Ogbadegeshin. I'm the CEO of Gozi Micro Insurance. Continue to watch Souq News.
Adenike Adeyemi, Executive Director of Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
My name is Shepherd Michael Adewale Onofuye. I enjoy you all to always watch Souqnews TV.
Hey everyone, Majuli Obaje here representing Gigi. Keep watching Souq News, okay? Stay updated with Souq News.
My name is Aton Keme. I am the head of MSME Banking. Please keep watching Souq News and stay glued to Souq News.
I recommend that more and more people should watch Souqnews News because they deal with business news.
Hi, my name is Amaka Wokolo. I am the director of the Faith Institute at Faith Foundation. Keep watching Souq News.
Muhammad Yunus was born on the 28th of June 1940 in the village of Batwa, Chittagong, a British Indian colony which is currently known as Bangladesh. He attended Lama Bazar Primary and Secondary School in his village and passed the matriculation examination into Chittagong Collegiate School, where he ranked 16th out of 39,000 students. After his graduation in 1961, Yunus joined the Bureau of Economics as a research assistant and was later appointed lecturer of economics at the Chittagong College. During that time, he also set up a profitable packaging factory on the side. In 1965, he received a Fulbright scholarship to study in the United States, where he obtained his PhD in economics from the Vanderbilt University Graduate Program in Economic Development. Between 1969 and 1972, after his keen education excellence of apex heights and proportions in the United States, he returned home and was appointed professor of economics at the University of Chittagong. He was eventually appointed onto the board of directors to the United Nations Foundation, where he served for 33 years. When Bangladesh suffered a famine in 1974, Yunus felt he had to do something for the very poor. In his country, he founded the Grameen Bank. His motivation was to create economic and social development for the very poor, giving long-term loans to those who wanted to start small enterprises to pay back when they can. The aim to help was to get many of them out of poverty. For this, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2006. Muhammad Yunus is a recipient of numerous international awards for his ideas and endeavors, including the Humanitarian Award in 1993, World Food Prize in 1994, Independence Day Award in 1987, Bangladesh's highest award, the King Hussein Humanitarian Leadership Award in 2000. He was also awarded the Volvo Environment Prize in 2003, Nikkei Asia Prize for Regional Growth in 2004, Franklin D. Roosevelt Freedom Award in 2006, as well as the Seoul Peace Prize in the same year. All humans are born entrepreneurs, he would always fondly say. His heart showed through his everyday life.
Well, I think as the name goes, we are still faring very well. We are still holding on. Basically, Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited is a Nigerian company owned by the federal government of Nigeria, the 36 states, and the 774 local governments. The federal government has 47% shares in NDPHC, and the 36 states and federal capital territory, plus the 774 local governments own the remaining 53%. Originally, it was supposed to be a stopgap, build and sell power plants to increase the power availability. But in the process, as the company moved along, they discovered that if you build power plants, you also have to build complementary transmission networks. And then if you have transmission networks, you will also need the distribution network so that the power can ultimately get to the consumers. And so because of the gap that was in the sector at the time, Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited was asked to build more power transmission networks, substations, injection substations. So over time, we had grown into the behemoth that we are today. Principally, we have 8 power plants functioning now, and then 2 are in the process of being completed. So that's what Niger Delta has been. But basically, I can say without any iota of contradiction that Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited has been able to increase the capacity, the network capacity, by about 50%, and of course the distribution capacity by about 60%. We are capable of producing up to 4,000 megawatts now, but there are still some constraints in the transmission network, which is being addressed by the various arms of government and the various stakeholders in the sector. If I want to talk about the problems in the power sector, you need more than an hour program. They are multifaceted. And each time solutions are being found, they are not far-reaching enough. For instance, before the enactment of the Electric Power Sector Reform Act, it was thought that the problem was we didn't have enough generation power, and that's what gave rise to the NIPP, which is the National Integrated Power Projects, which was basically to increase the power availability in Nigeria. And there were gaps because at that time, I don't think the solution was holistic enough. I'm talking of during the time of President Olusegun Obasanjo. You remember the National Integrated Power Project was conceived at the time. And it's strange that for the past many years, we are talking about 4,000 megawatts, 4,000. In reality, the available power in Nigeria is about 16,000 megawatts now, between 13,000 and 16,000 megawatts. So you wonder, why are we producing or generating or putting on the grid about 4,800 megawatts? So there's a gap. And the gap is basically the fact that the present network is aged. it's inadequate. There is fragmentation in the sector. You have, as of today, about 26 different bodies in the power sector. And it's a typical Nigerian problem. Once Nigeria identifies a problem, they create another agency to deal with that problem, rather than looking at the problem in the eye and say, this is the problem. And I can give you so many examples. For instance, traffic, which is very basic to everybody. When after the Udoji Award in the early 70s, I think it was in the early 70s, and people had phone to purchase cars, traffic began to grow. Now, instead of taking a holistic attitude and train the police to do what they're supposed to do, expand the road networks, and begin to put a culture of driving properly in the country, we created the yellow fever, the traffic wardens at the time. You remember at the time, traffic warden was separated from the Nigerian police. That's right. And the problem was not solved because the people were still constrained to virtually the same network of roads, more cars on the same network of roads. And then we stopped training drivers. So Federal Road Safety Commission was formed. And of course, I'm sure that you all know that the problem became worse. And now all of the state governments are creating their own variants of the Federal Road Safety Code. An example is LASMA in Lagos. And the people are still on the same roads. You know, so whereas we had 200 cars on a stretch of road, now we have 1,000. Now we have drivers who cannot read traffic signs, which are not even there. So today, when people see traffic lights, either in Abuja or in Lagos, I mean, they don't even know what to do. I'm sure that, I can't remember the last time we trained drivers in Nigeria. I cannot remember the last time we trained drivers in Nigeria. You know, it's the same thing with the issue of corruption. When we detected, corruption was increasing, we started creating so many variants of... And I always ask the question, where is the equivalence of EFCC in the countries that we're trying to be like? So we have created EFCC, we have created ICPC, we have created Bureau for... what's that other agency? Sorry? No. Those are another problem entirely. The BP and the BPP, you know. I mean, I'm talking of Code of Conduct Bureau. Okay. But in all honesty, can we say that corruption has reduced in Nigeria? Can we say that? So the problem is that we don't look at problems in the face and deal with the issue rather than creating bodies and bodies and bodies and bodies. We don't have the variants of EFCC, ICPC, and Code of Conduct Bureau in the countries that we're trying to be like. In this age and times, honestly, it's not rocket science. There is hardly anything you want to do that has not been done before or that is not being done in some other places. I mean, so you see in various sectors that once we identify a problem, rather than look the problem in the eye and providing solution to it, we create another body. It will appear to me that it is finding job for the boys, you know, and that is one of the reasons why we are where we are today. I cannot remember the last time anybody had to do driving tests to obtain a driver's license. I can't remember. In the US, if you want to obtain a driver's license, it's a long process. And I remember My daughter, when she went to the US at the age of 18, I remember when she wanted to go and obtain a driver's license, she called me and said, "Daddy, please pray for me." And I think the first time she went there, she didn't make it. And it was one slight error. And eventually, she had to go back, to retake the test. So that's what I see that we're doing wrong. And that has virtually destroyed all the sectors. The power sector is faced with so many problems. I was trying to explain to you, for instance, that the discos have various coverage areas. And if you take them one by one, you will see that some of them are covering a landmass that is bigger than 2, 3, 4 African countries together. Somebody was on my secondary school classmates forum. Somebody was trying to do a comparison between Botswana and Nigeria. And I said, Botswana has 581,000 kilometers, square kilometers. But 70% of that is Kalahari Desert. So effectively, what they have is less than 100 and something thousand kilometers. Nigeria has a vast land. Botswana has a population of 2.5 or 2 point something million. You can't compare that to. There's no basis. There's no basis. And so if they have 1,000 naira, their GDP is likely to be higher than that of Nigeria. Nigeria has 210 million people. Officially? Yes, officially. You can see the population of Lagos. I'm sure that the population of Botswana is not as thick as Surulere alone. I'm not trying to give excuses for what we are in Nigeria or how we're doing things badly. But I'm saying that we have a giant problem. We have giant problems in all of the areas. And we need to put our heads together to provide solutions to these problems. You can say that Nigeria is a country in progress. I know that we have enough human resources. We have enough intellectuals to find solutions to our problems. And I'm beginning to see that the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is tackling the problems headlong. I don't want to say that they work in silos. It should not be absolutely correct. I don't want to say that. That would be too negative. I would like to say that there's need for better collaboration between all of them. And then one of the greatest things that we need to do is that there must be a coordinating agency that is not encumbered with or by bureaucratic procedures. Okay, NEC is supposed to be the regulator in the society. Now, like I said before, if you have a regulator, they must be trained. And we shouldn't be ashamed to train our regulators and to ensure that we have the right people in those positions. But like I said, almost all the agencies in Nigeria, you find a lawyer heading an engineering company. It's not done. And what happens is that I don't want to create a war between professions. But the truth of the matter is that if you are a lawyer and you're doing legal consultancy in the sector, that doesn't make you to be chief executive of a purely engineering company. the last time it was an accountant that was in charge of one of the parastatals in the sector, and you know, even now that there's a new government, you see all kinds of people trying to outdo each other here and there. TCN, for instance, is supposed to be in charge of the transmission networks, but you have the independent ISO under them. How is that going to work? I mean, that is supposed to be an independent, and it cannot be under TCN. You know, the discos, for instance, who is supervising them? NERC is supposed to supervise them, but you have on the board BPE, you know, that has 40% of the shares, and they're supposed to monitor them. Are they doing that? And then now the Yoruba people say amukun eru ewo oni ewo saleni. That is, if a man is crippled or has bent knees and is carrying a load, it's not likely that the load will be straight because the legs are bent anyway. So that is the problem that we have. You know, the root cause, we are not attacking the root cause. You know, the electricity power sector reform has a transition program. But unfortunately, because we didn't do the privatization properly, we gave it to people who have no financial resources. They borrowed money from the banks to purchase the concession anyway. You know, because they borrowed money from the bank, they don't have enough funds to repair the aging facility that they inherited. So that is a problem. Now the bank is on them. The bank lent them money for 5 years, or you know, whereas this is a sector that is, I mean, you need long-term fund. You know, you need to have enough money to lay new cables, replace transformers. Some of these transformers have been there since 1960-something, to replace them. Look, where I come from in Ondo South Central District, we have not had power for up to 15 years now from the national grid. Everybody is an electricity generator company on his own. When we stepped into it to see what was happening, we discovered that the distribution company did not have enough money to repair the damaged distribution networks. So NDPC stepped into it, and we've spent almost 3 billion to repair all of that.
3 billion.
Or almost 3 billion. I mean, we're talking about 6 local governments. At a point, by the time we had finished the reticulation of the networks in 5 of the local governments, we discovered that there is the source of supply is from Ondo. Ondo has a 2 by 30 MVA substation. One of that substation is gone. So it means that the distance of almost 100 kilometers from Ondo to Ore and to Ilaje, to Igbokoda area, to Mahin and co. Just one single 33 kV line is coming from that. So by the time the light gets to Okitipupa, what you have is candle light. It's the same thing we saw in Lafia, for instance. For years, Lafia, even the government house in Lafia, was being operated on generator because the single line feeding Lafia and the entire Nasarawa state is from Abuja. So that's why we stepped in and built the 330, 132, 33 kV substation which was commissioned early last year by President Muhammadu Buhari. And you can see the joy in the faces of the people. Now, in Ondo South Senatorial District, for instance, they are the NDDC, not NDPHC, is building a 132 kV substation in Uderinije, which should help to bring power from Omotosho and to that area. But they have been on it for years now. And without the completion of that, there's nothing that can happen in the place. They will still have candlelight. So these are the problems. Now, NDDC is independent of NEC. It's virtually independent of the DISCO. It's independent of but they are doing a good work because they have offered to do, they have identified the problem and they have offered to do it. But who is coordinating these activities to ensure that everybody is working? And you know, one of the things I always complain about is that since this past 6-10 years, for instance, TCN has many of its projects are 85-90% completed. Some of the problems are just way-live that the government should collaborate with the state governments to resolve. But what do you have? A substation is ready in Akure, for instance. A 330 kV substation is ready in Akure. The transmission line is supposed to come from Oshogbo to Akure, and another transmission line is supposed to come from Benin and drop in Akure. Because of way-live issue along the route from Oshogbo to Akure, that project has been stalled for almost 6 years. So there has to be an organization that is above NEC, that is linked only to the president, that will look at all of these things. I talked about the fragmentation in the sector. You know, look, and let me tell you something. I know that electricity is a commercial venture. Yeah. And when you put your money there, you should be able to recover your investment. However, it's also a social contract between the government and the people. It's a social contract. You know, so if you have such a transmission line, everybody should be involved. And I remember that it has to be a responsibility. I remember when we were doing a project in Owerri. And because the transformers have been there for a long time, we needed to remove the transformers to a workshop somewhere in Ikorodu there for repairs, so that when they take them back, it can function properly. And we had given authority to the EPC contractor to go and remove the transformer. But of course, when the community saw that they were removing their transformer, this was a transformer that has not been functioning for the past 10, 15 years. They refused to let them go, and the governor had to intervene. The governor also refused to let them take the transformer away. I had to personally intervene with the governor, speak with the governor, write an undertaking before the transformer can be moved to the workshop for repairs. I mean, it's not repairs, but you know, they need to change the oil and, you know, make sure it's in good working condition, because it's been on the plinth for 15 years. So there has to be a coordinating agency that is devoid of bureaucratic encumbrance. You know, initially, NDPHC was created from the federation account. The initial seed money for NDPHC was from the federation account. However, since we started producing electricity, let me put it that way, we don't receive subvention from the government. So our revenue is from the sale of electricity, sale of energy to the network and to what we call willing buyers. For instance, you will see that we still, even outside the country, we sell power to countries outside Nigeria. Yeah. So that's how we derive our... But because also we are owned by the 3 tiers of government, we have also embarked on working with the other sectors to improve the networks. For instance, we build distribution. So from the profit that we have, we build distribution networks virtually in all. There is no state in Nigeria that has not felt the impact of NDPHC. And then we, like I said, the transmission substation in Lafia was constructed by NDPHC. It's like LNG. I mean, LNG cannot receive subvention from the federal government anymore. You know, I mean, of course, initially, government put in their own investment and the private sector put in their own investment. I'm hoping that we will move away from this structure in NDPHC. I'm really hoping that we'll move and adopt the NLG structure, for instance, and bring in a huge investor to acquire 49% so that we can start operating like an LNG. You know, there's a lot of confusion in the society, you know, and even those even some high government officials don't even know the functions of NDPHC. They don't even know. I mean, we were in a gathering some time ago, and a former minister who claimed to have been a part of the conception of NDPHC was annoyed when somebody threw a question at him, and he said, "What are you talking about? I don't have power in my house, and you guys are sitting down there." And I had to lecture him and say, "Hey, I'm not supposed to put power in your house. I'm just a businessman, you know, in the sector, producing oil, producing power, electricity, like every other person, like, what's the name of Elumelu's Transcorp Power, and selling it. That's all we are." The problems are enormous. But I believe very strongly that the discourse as they are now don't have the capacity. There has to be a restructuring of that sector. Under whatever you want to call it, maybe breaking their franchise into little bits. 1 or 2 of them are doing well. Eco, Disco, Ikeja Disco, yeah. Because, and also, you know, the problems are different. So, but for most of them, look, let me give you an example. If you need to, under Yola Distribution Company, I mean, you know how wide that sector, I mean, that part of the country is. If you need to take a 33 kV line from one town to the other, you may be doing 100 kilometers. Whereas under the Eco Disco franchise, I mean, 100 kilometers will do 2, 3, 4, 5 communities. So we need to restructure this discourse. We need to support the discourse to develop a new program tailored to reduce ATC and C losses. What is ATC and C? Aggregate technical, commercial, and collecting losses. Now, when you take power from Ondo, for instance, to Ilaje, 100 kilometers, by the time, and don't forget that along that route, you are dropping power for Ore, for Ajebandele, for this, for that. By the time you get to the end, what you have is candlelight. So you will need to and the discos don't have the finances to do these things. I said earlier that the privatization was not properly done. Okay. I'm not sure that those people have an understanding of what they were getting into. Everybody thought the power sector was like the telecommunications sector. But it is not. the amount of infrastructure that you need to put in place, physical infrastructure that you need to put in place for power is totally different from that. Because apart from your cell in telecommunication and the handset there's nothing that you need to do. You probably don't need to put poles, pay compensation. Fiber optic is for specific areas. I mean, for specific things, and it doesn't stop the telecommunication facilities.
After all, they can use satellite.
Yes, exactly, from functioning very well. Okay. So that the difference is, but you cannot send power remotely. You need cables, you need poles, you need transmission lines, you need all sorts of things. You need transformers. The discos should be responsible for them. But when they don't have the fund, what do? You can see that many of them, about 7 of them, are under receivership now. Some sort of receivership or the other. You can see. Because they borrowed money from the banks and they were not able to pay back within the time they thought, I mean, they were going to be able to pay back.
They were taking over.
You have to deal with each one of them, you know, on it has to be a tailored solution to each disco. You cannot apply the same brush for all of them. Well, the truth of the matter is that at some point there will be increase in tariff. However, this is not the time for it. I mean, Nigeria, I mean, we are doing a lot of reforms now. The removal of the subsidy has increased the cost of living in Nigeria. The exchange rate, harmonization of the exchange rates is also going to affect the economy and the earning power of the common Nigerian, even though that should not be the case, because I can tell you for free that no business organization was charging their customers based on the 400 and something naira to the dollar that the CBN was and that's a fraud on its own, because CBN knows that there's nobody who is selling anything in Nigeria decides the cost of that good based on the CBN exchange rate. It's simple, because they are not sure that they will get, I mean, when they need to replace machinery, raw materials, they were not sure that they could get the dollars from CBN. So this is the best thing that could have happened.
The Naira float.
The Naira float is the best thing that can happen to our nation, Nigeria. And I'm surprised, because every expert and non-expert had been advising CBN to do this for so long. So I'm surprised that the CBN was reluctant to do what is needful, and that's about the corruption in the system. So this is not the time, and I'm advising government too, this is not the time to increase tariff. Honestly, subsidizing the power sector is not good for the economy, because the truth of the matter is that 80% of the subsidy in the power sector is being enjoyed by people who can afford to pay for electricity. That's the truth. The low tariff pays only the rich. You know, the poor people just take advantage, just like in fuel too. Look, if you have 10 cars and you put all the 10 cars on the road, the poor man has only one way to go, just to go to office and come back, and you know. But the man who has 10 cars the wife will take one, the children will take one, the workers will take, and that's what is happening in the sector. So yes, this is not the time to think about increasing tariff. it will look. In the past, the cost of diesel was very high, right? Now, a lot of people migrated to using petrol generators. Yes. Now the cost of petrol is even almost higher than the cost of because petrol burns faster. You use more petrol for your generator than diesel. So generating power in your house now, where you don't have power supply from the national grid, is a big problem. No, there is no doubt in my mind that we need to migrate to prepaid meter. Okay. I mean, not only intelligent meters, okay, so that when we have intelligent...
A very good morning to you and welcome to Souq News Update. We are reaching you live from our studios in the commercial city of Lagos, Nigeria. I am Onyepriye Krumale. Let's begin. President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed his administration's commitment to fiscal discipline and transparent public spending, stating that adequate funding will be directed to critical sectors to rebuild trust and drive inclusive development. Speaking through the Minister of State for Finance at a national conference on fiscal governance, President Tinubu deepened the fuel subsidy removal as necessary to redirect funds into infrastructure, social safety nets, and long-term resilience. The President highlighted new tax reforms and revenue digitization as tools to expand the tax base and reduce leakages. The National Assembly leaders, including the Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the House Speaker Tajuddin Abbas, called for stronger oversight, full compliance with audit reports, and technological upgrades to enforce accountability. Lawmakers stressed that fiscal responsibility is essential to development, warning that non-compliance and delayed enforcement and weak reporting systems continue to undermine Nigeria's economic progress. The United States mission in Nigeria has announced that all applicants for FM and J nominations visas must immediately set their personal social media profiles to public. These visa categories are issued for education and exchange programs, and the new requirement aims to enhance identity verification and national security screening. According to the U.S. State Department for Public Social Media Access, is now part of a broader vetting process to ensure applicants do not pose security risk. The United States emphasized that visa issuance is a national security decision and is a privilege, not a right, stressing that all applicants must clearly demonstrate their intent and eligibility. Moving on, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has approved the fourth review of Ghana's extended credit facility, unlocking an immediate disbursement of approximately $367 million. Ghana's finance ministry confirmed the release slightly higher at $370 million. This brings Ghana's total drawdown under the $3 billion bailout program to about $2.3 billion, approved in May 2023. The three-year IMF arrangement has helped stabilize the West African nation's economy and contributed to an improved credit rating from the Fitch. The Japanese yen weakened sharply on Tuesday after United States President Donald Trump announced plans to impose 25% tariffs on imports from Japan and South Korea starting August 1st. The yen dropped to a two-week low against the dollar and high multi-month lows against the euro and pound. South Korea's won, however, regained some grounds after Monday's losses. Meanwhile, the Australian dollar jumped over 1% after the Reserve Bank of Australia unexpectedly held interest rates at 3.85%. The central bank signaled that it needed more data to confirm inflation trends, with markets now projecting a likely rate cut in August. The global currency market remains volatile as investors monitor the evolving tariff dispute and the central bank signals. In another development, China has warned the United States against reviving trade tensions by reimposing tariffs on Chinese goods from August the 1st. Beijing also threatened retaliation against countries that enter tariff agreements with Washington to exclude China from global supply chains. This comes after both nations reached a temporary trade truce in June, though many details remain unsettled. President Donald Trump has begun notifying trade partners of higher import duties, including over 100% tariffs on Chinese products, unless an agreement is reached by August the 12th. China's state newspaper condemned the move as economic bullying and stressed that only dialogue and cooperation can protect legitimate global trade interests. Many thanks for watching. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms at Souq News Television. Coming up shortly is Just Africa. Good morning.
One of the most influential and successful businessmen in Nigeria, who has made a mark in the financial system. He is the founder and chairman of Zenith Bank, one of Africa's largest and most profitable banks. He has been described by Forbes Africa as the godfather of banking in Nigeria.
My name is Jim Ovia. I'm chairman of Zenith Bank, and I thank you all for listening to me.
This illustrious son of Africa was one of the financial leaders who revolutionized the banking sector in Nigeria. Let's take a close look into the life, background, career, and achievements of this enigma, Jim Ovia. Jim Ovia was born on November 4, 1951 in Agbo, Delta State, Nigeria, to a large family as the second son of Chief Obi Olihe of Agbobi in Delta State. Being one from a humble background, Jim attended local schools as he had lost his father at the tender age of 4. His widowed mother, together with his older brother, saw him through school. He had secondary education at Ika Grammar School in Agbo. Due to his interest in business and technology, he proceeded to the United States to study business administration at Southern University, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, USA, where he obtained a bachelor's degree in 1977. He furthered to University of Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, and bagged a master's degree in business administration in 1979. Jim Ovia is also an alumnus of the prestigious Harvard Business School. Jim Ovia worked briefly as a clerk in Union Bank in 1973 before proceeding for tertiary studies. Upon acquiring immense business knowledge from international institutions, he returned to Nigeria, his home country, and began a career in banking. He continued at this for years, working for banks such as Lion Bank, Merchant Bank of Africa, and International Merchant Bank. After many years in the banking industry, in 1990, Jim came together with some colleagues to found one of Africa's largest and most profitable bank, Zenith Bank. The bank was established with a vision to provide excellent customer service, innovative and technology-driven banking. Zenith Bank flourished as it drew customers who sought excellence in financial services. What started with an asset of $4 million and about 50 staff has grown into over $24 billion in assets and shareholders' funds of more than $3 billion as of June 2022. Zenith Bank is listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange and London Stock Exchange. Jim Ovia served as Zenith Bank's Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director from 1990 to 2010, and then Chairman from 2010 to 2014. After a brief break, he returned as Chairman of the bank in 2016 and remains so till date. Under his leadership, Zenith Bank has grown to become one of the leading banks in Nigeria and Africa, standing tall among some of Nigeria's first-generation banks of repute, a feat rare for second-generation banks established in a time of tension between military and civilian regimes and economic instability.
We will build our own roads to our branches. If we're building branches in some cities, towns where the roads are not good enough. We have also bought power plants, generating sets to power electricity into our building. When we do all this, we also even had dug borehole to supply water to the building. When we do all this, what I personally call it is BYOI, bring your own infrastructure or build your own infrastructure.
Jim Ovia served as Zenith Bank's Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director from 1990 to 2010, and then Chairman from 2010 to 2014. After a brief break, he returned as Chairman of the bank in 2016 and remains so till date. Under his leadership, Zenith Bank has grown to become one of the leading banks in Nigeria and Africa, standing tall among some of Nigeria's first-generation banks of repute, a feat rare for second-generation banks established in a time of tension between military and civilian regimes. Zenith Bank has diversified its services to include insurance, pensions, stockbroking, and investment banking. The bank has won awards and recognition for its performance, governance, innovation, and social responsibility, inspired by its chairman's belief in giving back to community.
Really, it's my special pleasure, my honor indeed, for this opportunity offered by AAI to be awarded in the category of Business Leadership Award for 2017.
As an entrepreneur, Jim Ovia has made investments in sectors other than banking. They include oil and gas, telecommunication, real estate, power generation, media, and most recently, education. He is the founder and chancellor, James Hope University, Lekki, Lagos State, which has been approved by the National Universities Commission, NUC, to offer postgraduate degrees in business courses. Jim Ovia is a man who believes in giving back to society. He is engaged in philanthropic works through his foundations, Mankind United to support total education, MUSTE, and Youth Empowerment, ICT Foundation. These foundations award scholarships to indigenous students and promote information and communication technology in Nigeria through various initiatives. Ovia has made donations towards courses and institutions. They include Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, NIPC, Nigerian Internet Group, NIG, Lagos State University, and National Information Technology Advisory Council, just to mention a few. In recognition of his contributions, Jim Ovia is a recipient of many honors and awards. In 2012, the University of Benin awarded him an honorary doctorate degree. Former President Muhammadu Buhari in 2022 conferred him with the national honor of the Commander of the Order of the Federal Republic, CFR. Also in 2022, Jim Ovia was conferred with the National Productivity Order of Merit, NPOM award, by the federal government of Nigeria. Jim Ovia is a proud member of the World Economic Forum, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. He is also a member of several boards and councils.
We can't afford to lose depositors' money. We can't afford to lose money that belongs to stakeholders. So you must structure your industry in such a way that the best are nothing but the best are there.
As chairman of Zenith Bank with more than 9% stake, Jim Ovia in 2015 was estimated by Forbes to have a net worth of $550 million. This net worth obviously has been surpassed since then. Jim Ovia, as a business person, founded 5 companies. They are Zenith Bank PLC, the Quantum Group, Visaphone Communications, Quantum Luxury Properties, Civic Center Towers, and Cyberspace Network. Jim is member, Honorary International Investors Council. Kay Ovia is CEO, Quantum Markets Limited, a firm that offers stock brokerage services. She sits on the board of several organizations and is chairman, board of directors of Cyberspace Limited, a leading software engineering company. Cyberspace Limited is one of the pioneers in provision of internet services in Nigeria, providing network and software services. Kay, being at the head of a tech giant in Nigeria, teamed up with her husband, Jim, to strategically deploy robust IT infrastructure at Zenith Bank, which resulted in the development of digital products and technology-driven banking in Nigeria. Kay is an alumnus of Enugu State University of Technology, Souq, where she holds an MBA in management. She is much given to philanthropy, with several initiatives to transform lives, particularly those of the underprivileged. One of her projects targeted at children and youths, Star Rising Talent Hunt, aims at discovering and projecting hidden talents. Jim is married to businesswoman and philanthropist Kay Ovia. She's also a hotelier, proudly running Starwood Hotels. Jim and Kay Ovia are blessed with 5 children: Isioma, Zephyr, Tito, Tommy, and Jesse. As a family man, Ovia enjoys spending time with his family. He also likes reading and traveling. In order to pass on his vast wealth of knowledge on business and finance to African entrepreneurs, Jim Ovia authored a book titled Africa, Rise and Shine. The book was published in 2018 by Forbes Books. The book was written after he featured in an issue of Forbes, and it became the magazine's best-selling edition in Africa, that it had to be reprinted 4 times. The book, Africa Rise and Shine, paints the picture of his humble beginning from the small town of Agbo in Delta State, and against all odds, pushed through to become a global business icon, while providing insight on how to conquer challenges in African markets, taking advantage of the opportunities. The man, Jim Ovia, is a firm believer of Africa being a continent abundant with natural and human resources. He has constantly pitched the continent as a land filled with investment opportunities in international business forums, such as the Harvard Business School Annual Africa Business Conference, Bloomberg Global Business Forum, Commonwealth Business Forum, and the World Economic Forum, where he has been invited to participate and even deliver keynote address. Jim Ovia remains one of the pride of Africa and a great contributor to Nigeria's economy and the financial landscape in Africa.
Welcome to Cashcraft, where opportunities meet insight. Today, we're journeying into the field of prosperity where towering oil palms wave not just leaves, but the promise of wealth. From the humid groves of Edo to the rich red earth of Delta, a quiet boom is unfolding. Dough has been there for many years, but we could take advantage of this. This is one opportunity that holds the key to food security, foreign exchange savings, and thousands of jobs. Yes, we're talking about palm oil, Africa's red gold. But how do you tap into this opportunity? What does it take to build a business around palm oil, from plantation to profit? Let's break it down, step by step. 1. Understand the landscape. The first step is knowledge. Nigeria's oil palm production has risen by over 41% in the past decades, from 8.2 million metric tons in 2014 to 11.6 million in 2023, according to the Food and Agriculture Organization. Yet, with over 200 million mouths to feed and rising global demand, we are still importing palm oil to close the gap. That's your opportunity to become a local producer or processor. Step 2, choose your entry point. There are 3 main ways to enter into the palm oil value chain. Palm plantation farming. Cultivating your own palm trees is long-term but rewarding. Now you can look at processing. Buying palm fruit, popularly known as banga, I'm sure you know that, and converting it into oil with machines. That's another one. And trading. You can buy and sell finished oil in local or export markets. Each has different startup costs and time frames, so you must match your capital, patience, and passion. Before I go further, remember that this is not a professional guide, rather a wake-up call that there are opportunities everywhere. Now let's go to step 3, get land or source supply. According to research, some initiatives like the Edo Oil Palm Development Program, EOPDP, and Delta State Delcom Scheme are making access to land to become easier. Findings shows that in Edo State, over 114,000 hectares have been allocated to both big and small investors, and over 65,000 hectares have already been accessed. In Delta, 130,000 hectares have been provided by communities under a cooperative model, with over 3,000 smallholders farmers already on board. even if you can't own land. You can start small by sourcing fruit from cooperatives or leasing a small processing space. Of course you can. Now let's move to 4. Know the cost and time frame. It costs between $7,000 to $8,000 to cultivate 1 hectare of palm from nursery to maturity. But it takes about 3 to 4 years for the trees to start yielding. If you want quick returns, processing and trading may be better. You can buy a small-scale palm oil milling machines for 1.5 million to 3 million naira, or even less if you join a cooperative or lease. So let's go to step 5. Invest in knowledge and market access. Join farmer cooperatives like those in Delcom. They give access to training, markets, and funding. You can also link up with established companies like Presco and Okomo Oil. Yeah? I'm not marketing, but it's a way to tell you that, look, there are opportunities everywhere. All of these are listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Step 6, think sustainability and value addition. Palm oil is not just for stew and soup. Yeah, think big. You can produce refined oil, cosmetics, biodiesel, and export-grade products. Investors are already joining this, and governments are backing it. You can do your research. There is also growing interest in eco-friendly farming and traceable supply chains. If you do it right, foreign buyers will come looking. Palm oil may have its controversies, but in Africa, especially in Nigeria, it is heritage, it is economy, it is future. The rise of Edo and Delta as palm oil giants is not just about hectares or harvest. It is about people creating jobs, reducing imports, and saving foreign exchange. If you are looking for a business with cheap roots and wide branches, palm oil may just be your calling. This has been Cashcraft, your guide to turning ideas into income. I am Grace Komalafe. Join us again next time, and remember, the ground beneath your feet might be your next big break. See you again.
Tafawa Balewa Square, TBS. Tafawa Balewa Square was initially used as a horsing ground called Lagos Race Course. The edifice was constructed by General Yakubu Gowon in 1972 and named after Nigeria's first Prime Minister, Sir Tafawa Balewa. Tafawa Balewa Square is located at 45/57 Masi Bangboshe Street on Lagos Island, Lagos, and referred to as TBS. TBS is a 50,000-seater capacity venue and houses the Remembrance Arcade, the 26-story Independence House, which at a time was the country's tallest building. When Lagos served as the country's seat of government, the National Assembly Complex was within the TBS. Also in the square are the National Broadcasting Commission Office, the Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency Office, shopping centers, travel agencies, restaurants, car parking lots, and a bus terminal. Tafawa Balewa Square is adorned with beautiful statues of white horses and red eagles, symbols of strength and dignity. Our historic neighbors include the King's College and the Holy Cross Cathedral. Tafawa Balewa Square hosted some of the country's memorable events, such as the Independence Day in 1960, when Nigeria gained independence from Britain, the Armed Forces Remembrance Day, which is celebrated annually on January 15. The edifice is a national cultural asset. Tafawa Balewa Square, Souq Enlightenment.
Welcome to the Africa Development Studies Center, ADSC. ADSC is an organization focused on training and research to advance sustainable development and growth in Africa. We exist to facilitate customized training, research, and study exchanges worldwide on leadership, management, and critical development issues. The center offers a platform for the exchange of ideas and best practices. Our comprehensive services encompass research, consultancy, capacity building, training, and education programs, as well as publishing and disseminating development-related knowledge. Our faculty consists of experts and researchers with extensive experience in policy formulation, implementation techniques, and monitoring and evaluation. Our methodology involves talks, individual and group exercises, games, video screenings, and discussion seminar sessions in a cozy atmosphere, making learning enjoyable for our participants. For more information, email us at info@adstudycenter.com or call +234 912 039 2362. Visit our website at www.adstudycenter.com to learn more about our programs and upcoming events. Africa Development Studies Center, rethinking development for Africa.
To Just Africa. This is a show that we talk about everything African. Like we say, charity begins at home, and so we start from Africa to build Africa to make us stronger. My name is Swift Aderito, and I'm not alone on the program. I have my co-host and my very intelligent and handsome guest, Olumide Shokoya. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Swift Aderito. You flatter me this morning.
Oh, they tell you flatter will get you everything.
Well, you are a woman, you get these things every day, so you know better.
All right. So today we are talking something that's personal to both of us. We are talking Trump's African Summit 2025. For the very first time in over 20 years, Nigeria is left out. What's your first take on this?
Well, it's a whole lot. Trump has made it known that he's not going to associate himself with beggy countries. That is countries looking for aids and all that. And maybe he feels Nigeria is part of that. I would not blame him. We are seeking aids, grants everywhere, loans and all that. So he wants to actually deal with countries who have resources, mineral, earth and all that, and are ready to harness these mineral resources and ready to, do trade and investment. Those are the people or the countries he wants to have dealings with. Nigeria has that. All these countries, I mean, we have Gabon, Senegal, Mauritania, and two others.
Yes.
They are all rich. They have gas. They have all these other, rare earth materials. Nigeria also has that. I think it's one of the things that we need to wake up to and realize that nobody's coming to help us.
Nobody's coming to help you. Let me pursue that. So before Olumide finishes the topic, and let me just do a brief analysis of what this is all about. If you're wondering, okay, the Summit 2025. I want to tell you that from July 9th to the 11th, 2025 marks a new dawn as President Donald Trump is convening a meeting that is focused on a trade summit in Washington. And what makes this meeting controversial is the fact that only 5 West African Central leaders have been invited. We have people from leaders of Ghana, Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and of course Senegal. Analysts claim that the nations were chosen specifically for their untapped resource potential, particularly in strategic minerals and energy. Also because of their role in maintaining regional security, such as countering Sahara-based extremist threats, which we know Nigeria is still battling with. Notably absent from this summit, of course, are the heavyweights of Africa, like Nigeria and South Africa. Despite Nigerian status, has Africa's largest economy with a GDP around 188 billion USD and over 233 million and still counting. We were not invited officially. Okay, so the key is to know that the role play in this is that the U.S. is pursuing a border reciprocal tariff strategy, imposing about 10% on countries like Kenya, Ghana, Ethiopia, and up to 30 to 50% on export-oriented partners like South Africa, Lesotho, Madagascar, and this summit holds a rude awakening for Africa. As the U.S. has said, there is less emphasis on trade, traditional aid, and more on mutual commercial benefit. Like what you were explaining. Somebody came from another angle and said, look, all these countries have one thing in common. They have been able to fight and hold off, in quote, I won't use the word Muslim extremists.
Internal.
Yes, they have been able to successfully do that. Since, I think, 2012 or 16, since Goodluck Jonathan, we have had the Boko Haram. They will say they have wiped this out. Next week we are saying this. We have had Benue clashes. So another school of thought is saying it is because any country that has not been able to effectively hold their security. We know that South Africa is not secure at all. I was with a South African some days ago, and he was telling me, once it's 5, you go into your house. As big as South Africa is. And so this is another reason that U.S. is saying, look, if these smaller countries have been able to know the importance of keeping their countries secure, maybe we should do business with them. What do you think?
Well, I have some reservations about why U.S. is actually partnering with these countries, these 5 countries. They have mineral resources. So U.S. would not, U.S. is looking for ways, you know, they are very smart people. U.S., they also have some, they have oil.
They have everything.
So it's like, you know, when we were younger, you have a friend who has everything. He'll keep what he has and be begging from others. He's not going to share his own with you, but he'll be begging from you, and he will collect from you and still add to what he has. That's the way U.S. to me operates. Do you understand? They know U.S. will not collaborate with you if you do not have what will benefit them first, not what will benefit you first. And they've made it known that they are not giving aid, they are moving from aid to trade and investment. So these countries, they have what U.S. needs. And it also has to do with China. We all know there's this trade war going between
a silent, do we call it a silent trade war?
So Africa now is like an untapped land. And these world powers are racing to gain at most 60 to 70% control of Africa. China is, when it comes to Africa, China sees Africa as its biggest investment. So they are trooping to Africa. U.S. is saying that. U.S. is also trying to make a big move, a bold move, to see how they can harness. So I don't see it as more of, why can't we trade amongst ourselves? Now, one of the things that we are planning to sell, these countries are planning to sell to America, is African Continental Free Trade Area. Why? This is for Africa. Are we looking for more tariff-free, or what exactly? Because when I read through some of the deals or whatever they are trying to propose to U.S., I feel it's something that should be proposed among the African Union. And the fact that Nigeria is not even involved, it's a whole lot. But well, let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes.
Let's see what they get from it. Let's see what they get from U.S. in return. Maybe U.S. really wants to invest in these 5 countries. Maybe they want to bring in their machines. Maybe there will be a tech transfer, skills acquisition, and all that. But
which would definitely happen.
Yes. But these countries also have to, in Nigeria, they say, shine your eye.
Yes.
They have to be really aware of what is going on and make sure they are not, what happened in this particular country, Niger and all that, does not repeat itself.
All right, talking about the topic, you know, we always bring in somebody that is special and we literally analyze and do justice. We have our guest online. His name is Shehu Shopitan, and of course, he's a principal partner at Woodbridge and Scott Consulting. He is a political and know-who-how or know-it-all, a very brilliant young man. Mr. Shehu, good morning and welcome to the show. How are you doing, sir?
Very fine, thank you. Good morning. It's Shegun.
Sorry, Shagun, please, my apologies. And Shagun, I'm not alone in the studio. I have with me Olumide Shokoya. He too is saying good morning to you.
Good morning, Shagun.
Good morning, Olumide. Good morning.
Shagun, please, again, my apologies about the name. And so today we are talking about the Trump's African Summit 2025, where 5 countries were picked, like 5 new brides. And the older, more beautiful and more advanced brides like Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa seem to be missing from the list. I just want you to do a small summary. What's your take on it before we start to ask other questions?
Well, my summary take is, first of all, that coming from a Pan-Africanist perspective, that I really, really would love to see Africa evolve to the place where these world powers respect us for who we are, period. Not, us getting excited because the United States is calling us. Africa has everything it takes, no matter which of the countries that we're talking about, whether it's Senegal, whether it's Bissau, whether it's Guinea, the smallest of those countries is probably Guinea. We have what it takes to stand our ground on the global stage. And I really would have loved to see Africa come of its own and take its pride of place in the global community. I find it a bit condescending that the president of the United States pretty much summons these 5 countries, come to White House. Then everybody is excited, and there's a buzz all over the place that Trump is meeting with these African leaders. Why are we excited? What's in it for us? So for me, my general reaction is one of I'm not impressed. I'm not excited. I'm not happy. I think that Africa has played the second fiddle for far too long, given the things that God has given us. Africa is an endowed continent. Whether you talk about human resources, whether you talk about natural resources, the lack of disasters, where disaster-free is a disaster-free zone, generally speaking. There's so much going for us, and yet there's so little that we're getting from it all. So we need to fix our leadership issues so that Trump, if a president of the United States, will see value in you, whatever that value might be. The reason that this meeting is going on might not be anything to do with what we have to offer. I think it's probably what Trump and the United States wants to achieve. And I'm not particularly excited about that. And that's just my preliminary thoughts.
All right, Shagun, thank you very much. I remember when I was growing up, when you tell your father you want to go and visit your friend, he will tell you, sit down at home. What does your friend have that you do not have in my house? So my question goes like this. What does these African countries, what do they truly want with their trade relationship with the United States? Is it fair, free access? Is it lower tariffs? I mean, what do they really hope to achieve in this U.S.-Africa summit?
Well, I mean, and it's an interesting analogy that you give, and it's something that I remember that my mother also used to say to me then. There are some friends that you go to their house once, you go to their house a second time, you go a third time, and they've not visited you. And my mother will tell you, you're not going there again. It shows that they don't value you. And I think that there are lessons in that, ideology and mindset that we can also apply to this scenario. So the question is, like you say, what do these African countries want to get from this? But I don't think that's the question. I think it's because this is not at our behest, it's not at our initiative. It's actually what does the United States see in this country that is making the United States call them? So at the end of the day, of course, there'll be some sort of bilateralism to the conversation. If we're here, you want something from us, okay, what are we getting in return? So, that conversation will then result in, okay, is it the tariff exemptions, for example? Is it a better migration, visa exemptions, the easing of the visa requirements? There are a number of things that these African countries can get, maybe some sort of aid, since Africa is very notorious for seeking aid from all over the place with our cap in our hands. So maybe there'll be some conversations around the aid question. a lot of funding that came from USAID, for example, covering a wide range of programs and projects that have been discontinued, at least temporarily for now. Maybe conversations will come up around that with regards to the benefits, to these countries. Maybe they'll have to talk about how else to fill the gap that USAID may have left behind, and so on and so forth. So there are quite a number of things that I think that these countries will stand to gain from this conversation. But it's an extremely, we must not miss the point that it's an extremely one-sided engagement. The big brother in this, in fact, I don't even know if big brother is the appropriate, more like the daddy in this is the United States, and it's just calling the children, come and sit down in the parlor, let's talk. I want this, I want this, I want this. That's what we're likely to see happen. But we will get whatever we're able to get. When I say we, I mean as Africa, from this conversation, and that will be that. But at the end of the day, this is more about American interests than the interests of Africa.
Segun, thank you so much. I really love your analysis. There's a school of thought that is saying that Africans are not looking at the big picture, and that one of the reasons why Donald Trump and the United States is very interested in meeting with those particular 5 countries is because of the role they have played in keeping their countries safe from extremists. We know that Nigeria, we have been fighting the Boko Haram issue, I think, since 2014, 2012, and we are still not able to have, in quote, headway. What do you think about this? Because they said each of those countries, we are looking at Gabon, we are looking at Senegal, they have been able to, match the extremists firearm to firearm and actually secure their nations. What's your thought process on this?
Well, I guess there might be a bit about that. But if you look at the numbers, I think that the numbers would probably suggest there's something else going on. If it's about the extremists and internal security issues and all of that, the first question is, how does that affect the United States, to the point where the president then wants to invite the presidents of those countries to come have a sit down with him? Gabon, for example, 2.4 million population, 2.4 million people. Guinea-Bissau, 2 million. Liberia, 5 million. Mauritania is the biggest of these countries, much bigger than Nigeria, or maybe not much, but slightly bigger than Nigeria in terms of landmass. But in terms of population, they're only 4 million. So you combine these 4 countries, and we're still talking of less than 20 million people. And Senegal is 18 million. Let's round it up to 20 million on the much, much smaller landmass of 6,000 square kilometers. So all these countries put together, 40 million. That's just about the size of Lagos, maybe the Southwest, put together. So if you look at their GDP as well, combined GDP between these 5 countries is less than 10% of Nigeria's rebased GDP, right? 10%. So I don't think it's about the internal security issues with regards to those countries, because if you want to look at the internal security perspective, then you would say the concern that the United States might have with regards to that is maybe the regional stability issues that might imply. The fact that, these countries are safe, and therefore they're a safe haven for the region to ensure that businesses are going on without any disruptions, investment flows are moving freely and all of that. But none of these things would bother the United States. It's not their business. So what I've found is one of the major reasons that Trump wants to meet with these countries is that there is a channel, in international movement of persons and movement of drugs and trafficking, migration and immigration issues. These countries lie on the pathway, on the channel of the movement of these things, and some of them find their way into the United States. So illegal immigration in Africa, apparently, there is a channel through which people move And these countries provide a gateway. They find themselves across, the borders, and they find themselves into the United States. Trump is big on immigration. It's huge. It's one of his major campaign mandates, promises to his people. It's one of the major reasons that he won these elections against all odds. So a lot of his actions right now are geared towards fulfilling the promises that he made to his base. And immigration is a big one. So the feeling out there amongst the experts is that this is about asking those countries to better secure their borders and to break the channel. There's a pathway that involves these countries, Gabon, Guinea, Liberia, Senegal. If you look at those four, including Mauritania, you will see that they are kind of contiguous, right? Gabon, the one that is a bit away, but then when you remember that people actually take boats and cross the Mediterranean and all of that, it's not far-fetched to see how Gabon might be on some sort of immigration route that involves these five countries, and that Trump feels the need to sit down with them and close out that and secure, their own borders better. So I think that this makes more sense to me than any of the other considerations. It can't even be economic because, like I said, combine their GDPs together, they are less than 10% of Nigeria. They are less than 10% of South Africa or Egypt. The big countries, on the African continent don't pose the threat that these countries appear to be posing to Trump in particular and his immigration and country-first agenda. So it looks as if that might very well be one of the major thrusts of the meeting. Of course, there will be other considerations. You talk about the economic alliances that can be had. You talk about whatever benefits that, especially the African countries will get in return for acquiescing to Trump's demands. So Trump has called them to lecture them and tell them to take care of their borders so that they don't disturb the United States.
All right, Cheryl, I really love Shagun, I'm apologies. I really love your analysis, but there is also another school of thought. This is a follow-up question. Who claims that each of these countries' ports do not have a treaty with the United States? That some of those ports seem to be untapped, and that the United States, like you said, there's a reason why United States is interested in them. It's not just for security. People are claiming that the United States is trying to sign a treaty or create an atmosphere where warships and other things can be in these countries to secure borders, like you had already said, because the borders for immigration. What's your thought on this, this school of thought or these people who are saying this?
Well, there's, what we're doing basically is that we're guessing. It's Trump and the Americans that know exactly why they call this meeting. They have an agenda, and it's not random, right? But all we can do, based on what we know about this country, is based on what we know about the United States, based on what we know about current global affairs, is to offer educated guesses. So coming from that perspective, what you say, makes some sense, because what we do know now is that there's a realignment going on in the global power balance between the major players on the global stage in terms of superpowers. You've got the United States on one hand, you've got Russia on the other hand, and then you've got China. These are the three main global powers today that are influencing activities across the different continents of the world. And with the recent coups that we've had, in the Sahelian states, Mali, Burkina Faso, the rest of them, the realignment with regards to military cooperation there's a realignment going on. France have been evicted, so to speak, from most of these countries, including Niger. And remember, France and America are allies within the NATO setup. So there's a possibility. So I'm saying to you that there might be some sense in that idea that this might also be the first overtures from the United States to these countries with regards to potentially, if not setting up military bases entirely, but perhaps to make those countries more amenable towards some sort of cooperation with the United States from a military and defense point of view. So I wouldn't totally discountenance that there's a possibility to that, given the race for Africa between Russia, China, and the United States. And again, even beyond the military argument, just looking at that race for domination across the world between these three major powers and their allies, it's not completely unthinkable to think that the United States may have some sort of strategic stake in securing partnerships with those countries and is therefore inviting them, to the White House. Of course, it's more effective for the President of the United States to invite these countries and call it a summit of some sort. But we know that it's basically summoning them. He's going to be reeling out demands to them that he wants them to fulfill. And then he will have some sort of carrots to exchange with them for meeting those demands. So yes, there is some logic to that idea that this might be also about military alliance. But I still feel that the most logical thing for me, looking at all of this, is especially knowing that the United States is always about their own enlightened self-interest. Everything America does is about America's interest. So it looks as if the immigration angle is probably the strongest reason for this. Again, bearing in mind what Trump stands for: country first, America first, make America great again, secure our borders, keep immigrants out. So majority of what he's doing today is geared towards achieving that.
All right, thank you very much. Bold statements coming from you, Shegun. So now, if you look at Africa, China's presence is growing in Africa. And with some countries now, especially Nigeria, joining the BRICS alliance, you can see there's some form of something going on among African nations. So my question now is, do you think the United States can offer a more competitive trade and infrastructure package, in face of growing Chinese and BRICS influence on the continent?
Yeah. First of all, let me speak to that point you just made quickly. Is it a coincidence that at about the same time that BRICS is having a summit in Brazil and has invited, quite a number of partner countries who are not necessarily one of the 5 main members, but who are members of that alliance, including Nigeria, who has kind of been playing on the fringes and, not quite joining and not quite saying, no, we're not going to join. Is it a coincidence that that summit is going on in Brazil and Nigeria is there? And almost at exactly the same time, the United States of America is having its own meeting, its own summit. In fact, they even called it a summit with some African countries. So definitely there is a realignment issue underlying this summit that Trump is putting together. There's the battle and the race for dominance, regional dominance across the world that is also playing out, with this meeting. So again, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how Nigeria plays its part. We want to align with BRICS, but then what does that do to your traditionally very strong relationship, trade relationship, and other partnership relationships with the United States, with the United Kingdom, with the EU? So it's a balancing act that I think we'll find a way to navigate through, and it makes for very interesting watching. Now, to speak to the question that you posed with regards to trade cooperation, and trade packages and trade deals from the United States, and maybe these other countries on the continent, China in particular. I think that for me, this is my personal view. For me, we need to do better. We need to do better. This idea of Africa and African countries, and even Africans. You listen to Nigerians, Kenyans, and different citizens of the African continent speaking, And you find us taking sides with these global powers. You find us speaking about the Russian invasion of Ukraine and NATO's expansion towards Russia, um, and China's Cold War with the United States, especially on the technology and economic front. And you find that a lot of Africans have taken a side, have taken a position. There's an ideological tone to the conversation, and you find that there are people that lean west and there are people that lean east. And I feel that it's about time that we lean inward, that Africa leans into Africa, that Africans think more Africa, because there's so much that we can achieve if we align and we cooperate and we expand the engagements and partnerships that we have amongst ourselves. I was watching a program on one of the channels yesterday about this young guy that is driving across the African continent, a solo drive. I can't remember if his car is driving or if it's a bike. I think it's a riding expedition. And the guy was giving account of how difficult it has been for him crossing from one African country to the other. There is another, I have a couple of friends that have also done this, my personal friends that have taken rides across several countries, especially on the West African coast, where you would think, because of ECOWAS, to be easy. And they also talk about the challenges that they face at the borders, at the different borders, corruption related mostly. These are the things that I think we need to talk about on the African continent. It's time that we stop being the tool and the pawns in the hands of these global powers, because we have so much going for us. So maybe Africans, especially young Africans who might be listening to this, maybe it's time for us to start thinking about how to take our continent back and how to ensure that we've got the kind of leadership that can lead Africa into global dominance. Right now, Africa is more like it's the playing field of the world. We're pawns in the chess game, in the global chess game. When are we going to be the queen or the king or the bishop or the knight on that chess table, the global chess table? When are we going to stop being the pawn that are expendable, that people move forward and take? You give it to the opposition and the opposition takes it. Right now, it's like we're pawn pieces in the hands of China, in the hands of Russia, in the hands of the United States and its Western partners in NATO and the EU. When are we going to stop being the tools and the prize that these people are trying to win? When are we going to start pursuing our own agenda? When are we going to start pursuing the African interest? When will we have, after Africa Free Continental Trade Agreement and the zone take full effect and allow free flow of goods and services and human beings?
Hello, Mr. Shago. My apologies. I need to take a quick break. We are really enjoying this conversation. Please hold your thoughts, and we want to take a quick break to show you something very, very different, a mini documentary, of course, on Africa. And when we come back, Just Africa continues. My name is still Swift Aderito, and of course, I have the very brilliant Olumide Shokoya here. Do not go anywhere. This is still Just Africa on Souq News Television.
In an age of artificial intelligence and automation, it is easy to overlook the value of hands. Yet in Ghana, hands still build nations. From Adinkra cloth printers in Ntoso to traditional kente weavers in Bonwire, Ghana's indigenous skill economy continues to prove that African creativity is not just cultural, it is commercial. Looking beyond the surface of heritage, to the engine room of informal training systems that have powered generations and could power Africa's industrial future, Ghana comes to mind. In Ghana, apprenticeship is not a fallback. It is the main highway for millions of young people who are learning practical trades like metalwork, leatherwork, carpentry, fabric dyeing, and advanced tailoring. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, more than 80% of artisans are trained informally, yet they contribute significantly to the GDP. This is not unique to Ghana. From the woodcarvers of Kenya To the bronze casters of Nigeria, Africa is a continent of craftspeople. But Ghana offers a model where traditional skill acquisition meets modern enterprise development. Institutions like the Council for Technical and Vocational Education and Training, COTVET, have begun integrating indigenous knowledge into formal systems, developing a dual-track model that combines age-old methods with certification, mentorship, and business incubation. As Africa looks for solutions to youth unemployment, the answer may not lie in importing Western education models, but in elevating what we already have. Imagine if every African country invested in formalizing informal skills, adding value chains, technology, and access to export markets. The challenge, as always, is perception. We must stop seeing artisanship as inferior. Ghana is showing that welding can build wealth and textile design can drive trade. The African hand is skilled. The African mind is gifted. What remains is for policy and investment to catch up with potential. In Ghana's apprentices, they don't just see workers, they see a future workforce Africa can proudly call its own. I'm Moyosore Adebi for Souqnews TV.
Welcome back. This is still Just Africa, where we talk about everything Africa. We are always interested in African interest and economic growth. And like I told you before, I'm not alone on the show, and I hope you've been following the conversation. We are talking about Trump's 2025 summit, where he invited only 5 African nations, and in quotes, left out the big powers like Ethiopia, Nigeria, South Africa, and more. With me is my co-host, my very intelligent co-host, who has been doing justice to the topic, Tosfa Olumide Shokoya. Olumide, how are you doing?
I'm fine, I'm doing well.
And of course, we've had a guest who is on Skype and who has been helping us analyze issues and throw more light on the issue and open our eyes to, other perspectives we didn't think about. Of course, we have Mr. Shego. Mr. Shego, welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm very fine. Thank you.
By the way, I need to mention, I like your beard. It's very unique.
Thank you.
All right, so I need to take you back. You were answering Olumide's question when I had to go on that quick break. My apologies. I wanted you to just summarize and finish up for us.
No problem. So I was just saying that, basically in summary, Africa needs to take its own place. We need to recognize our potential, and we need to move from potential to realization. We've had potential for too long, and the competition has always been about, the resources that we have. It's time for Africa to start exporting to the rest of the world in real numbers. The trade deficit between Africa and, pick any of the global powers, we always run a very heavy deficit, running into trillions of dollars, right? So if we fix our ability to cooperate and trade amongst ourselves, to engage in positive and meaningful partnerships amongst ourselves, then we can reinforce our own strengths, we can amplify them, and then ship that out to the rest of the world and carry more value. I mean, think about a place like Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, one of the most endowed countries in the world, but it's embroiled in an internal war that has been on for decades between itself, the forces within itself, Rwanda, so much so that President Trump is also trying to intervene in that. Africa needs to solve Africa's problems. When Trump says he wants to come and solve stop the war, I'm going to have a peace deal, Trump is looking for deals to extract resources and value from Africa for the benefit of the United States. So I'm just saying that Africa needs to wake up. And I think this wake-up call is to the African youth. I don't regard myself as a youth anymore. I'm kind of, we're on our way out slowly. The younger people that are listening to this need to start having the conversations that we must have on this continent to demand that our leaders do better. We need to make sure that we can produce the kind of leaders that will do what is in the common, what is in the, that will take actions for the common good, and that would foster the interest of the majority over the interest of the few, corrupt and selfish leaders that we have across the continent. So those conversations are things that we need to have so that Africa can fulfill its so much tremendous potential.
Thank you so much. So, do you have a follow-up question I
yes,
can ask?
In a follow-up question, some other school of thought now says that with China's deep economic footprint in Africa, do you think this is Washington's last chance to regain some sort of influence on the continent?
I don't think that we will ever get to a last chance station, if you like, a last bus stop. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I think alignments will always happen, realignments will always happen. As they say in politics, it's only interests that are permanent. You don't have any permanent friends, you don't have any permanent enemies, but you have permanent interests. So Africa, again, I must repeat, must begin to pursue its own interests. And those interests should determine the kind of alignments that we go into. So China is making a very strong case for itself, and it's making very strong forays and entries into Africa, with a lot of support, loans, aid programs, infrastructure development, infrastructure projects and schemes. And it's all well and good, but at the end of the day, we have to remember that China is doing that because of China. They are not Father Christmas. So if the United States come tomorrow with a stronger arrangement, a stronger deal, maybe cheaper loans, longer term loans, more favorable payment terms, for example, you might find the pendulum swinging back in that direction. But for me, it's always got to be about Africa. Why do we need all those loans? Why can't we put policies and programs in place that will unleash private capital in a manner that will benefit the people without making those services overly expensive and unaffordable? So there's a lot of thinking that needs to happen, thinking outside of the box. We need to look to China, the Asian tigers, for how they engineered their rapid exit from poverty over the last 30 years thereabouts. China used to be the poverty center of the world. Today, China is the second largest economy in the world. Some would argue is the first in terms of technology and all of that. You see crazy innovations coming out of China. This ain't China. Chinese products, we used to look down on them. In Nigeria, it's so ironic. We used to say, oh, this one is China, But today, BYD, a Chinese electric vehicle maker, is beating Tesla in the United States. BYD is bigger than Tesla in the United States. So when will Africa travel that path and export products, services, technology, innovations, inventions to the rest of the world? So to make it on a lighter note, you watch Wakanda, the movie Wakanda Black Panther, and it just makes you nostalgic, in a reverse kind of way. Like, why can't this be the reality of Africa? Why can't we have technologies that are so advanced that the rest of the world look at us in admiration? So for me, that's the conversation that we need to continue to foster, on the African continent, and find ways to make that happen and make Africa, a bride for the right reasons. Right now, we're a bride for resources. They just want to come and export our raw materials, our, rare earth metals, our oil, and all of that. So when will they come to us? Because we've got unique, innovative ideas that they need from us. So it's time for us to head in that direction. And for me, that's how the conversation needs to be guided.
All right, Mr. Segun, thank you so much. Still enjoying this conversation. I have a question. I was one of the few Nigerians or Africans that was very excited about the exclusion of Nigeria and other superpowers from Trump's summit, because there was something he said. He said trade, not aid, and this actually hit home. I'm asking, do you think this would motivate African leaders and African nations to look inwards and do more. Our legislative has just passed a law saying that 30% of all exported products, or all exported products, must at least have experienced 30% refining, local refining, before they are now exported out of the country, which will mean higher GDP and more money for us. What's your take on this?
Yes. First of all, talking about the exclusion of Africa, the large countries on the continent from this summit and from other similar conversations, I think it's probably a good thing. And for people who see it as some sort of negative thing, I don't think so. I think it's actually a positive thing that Trump thinks that, no, I don't need to talk to this one. They're big enough. They can take care of themselves. That's what I'm taking from this. Nigeria look, we're potentially a global superpower ourselves. Out of every 4 Black people that you meet in the world, anywhere in the world, 4 are Nigerians. I mean, that's mind-blowing. And I've seen this play out every time that I've watched any kind of event that has a gathering of Black people. You will always find a predominance of Nigerians there, right? So Nigeria is a superpower, whether we like it or not. It's only we need to walk into that reality. We're still far behind that potential. So I think trade not aid is a very good policy. I love that coming from Trump. I think it should encourage African leaders to recognize that we can do far better than this, and that indeed the world is expecting us to do far better than this. And then speaking about the legislation that you referred to, it's not even enough. At the end of the day, we have to recognize that policies are good, legislation is necessary, but invariably it is the execution and implementation of those laws and legislations and policies that will result in the kind of progress that we require. So it's very good to say 30% of anything that we're exporting from Nigeria must have experience of sort of value add, either refining or production, before it goes out. In other words, what they're saying is we don't want to export raw materials alone anymore. We want to export finished goods and goods that have received some value add. Fantastic. However, beyond the legislation, if you want to do that, you need an infrastructural base. Make that happen. Let's start with electricity. I mean, how will you achieve what the National Assembly is talking about based off 6,000 megawatts of electricity for a 230 million population country, 926 or 28,000 square kilometers of land mass? How can 5,000 megawatts, help you do a 30% value add to your exported items? It's never going to happen until we fix the electricity problem. So rather than talk about it, it's okay. It's a good policy. It's a good direction to move. It's a good thing to think and do. But for it to happen, we have to fix electricity. We've got to fix our transportation networks, rail and roads, to facilitate the easy and free movement and cheap movement of goods and services, the factors of production across the country. So those are the things that should be receiving the kind of energy and thought and policy implementation, design, execution from our government officials. But sadly, we're not seeing enough of that. In 2 years, we should have seen traction. We should have seen significant progress with regards to all of these infrastructural requirements that will drive economic development, and we haven't seen enough of that, unfortunately.
All right, thank you very much, Segun. So just one of my final questions. What safeguards can be put in place to ensure that U.S. and Africa trade does not continue to disproportionately benefit foreign firms at Africa's expense?
I mean, look, brilliant question. And I think that speaks to the heart of, the conversation we'll be having and my position. For that to happen, for the balance of benefits, balance of power in the relationship dynamics to shift in our favor, we have to fix our continent. We have to fix the very huge infrastructure deficits that we have. We have to fix the closed borders and the closed airspaces. You know, we have to unleash the potential. Africa has a population of 1.4 billion human beings, right? But all of them are living in silos. They are sequestered away from each other. We can't cooperate, can't reach across our borders and trade freely so that we can create economic progress. It is when we do all of that that we carry value in our hands and sit at a table to exchange value with others. So at the moment, we're simply not doing enough to unleash all of the wonderful things that Africa can become. So we need to fix that. When we fix ourselves, then people will come to us, and rather than seeking to give handouts and giving us conditions for loans and all of that, they'll be coming to us to say, look, we want this. This is what we have in exchange for what you have. We don't have enough at the moment, and we've got to fix that. Once we do that, then the balance will shift in our favor, and we can sit at the table as equals.
So, Shaq, we're talking about speaking on the tables as equals. Oh, I want to still say thank you so much. I'm still so enjoying your analysis, but I want to come again from another school of thought. So another school of thought has said, look, from the onset, Trump administration has said the United States is cutting funding for unnecessary things. Do you think that Trump is trying to send a message to African countries that instead of the United States spending money hosting 54 African countries, he only picked 4? Because look, when these countries are coming in, some presidents travel with as much as 300 people. You are looking at foreign exchange. We all know that most of the countries, especially Nigeria, are struggling with the dollar and the naira pricing. Do you think this is a way Trump is trying to, send a subtle message to African leaders that, look, you are traveling too much, you are taking too much people, and let's cut down on, receiving guests and entertainment and focus more on nation building?
Well, I don't know if that's what Trump is saying, and if that is the underlying message. And honestly, I doubt it. Look, we have to understand that because of what we have made ourselves into, the painful reality is we don't matter. And I don't think Africans understand this enough. We don't matter. And in the global scheme of things, we're simply too small. So
my God. Okay, I need to apologize. I think that the network is a bit shaky. But before Mr. Shegun comes back, please let's analyze this. Because when somebody brought it up, he said, look, one African country is traveling with 300 people. That's dollars. At least the extra code for each person cannot be less than, let's say, 10 million. That's for the lowest. Then you now look at the PA to the PA, the SSA. Maybe their own is 20 million. You look at the SSA to the SSA, their own is 50 million, yes.
A particular president, I'm not mentioning it.
Okay,
a particular
please.
President that my allegation was said that he traveled with 1,000 delegates or entourage. I'm not mentioning any name. And the country, reacted to that.
Yes.
It was quite a spectacle. But one of the questions I would even like, in going forward now with this summit, will Africans begin to push for technology transfer, industrial support, and not just market access? Because that's all I see in this summit.
Yes.
We need technology. Let's exchange ideas. Technology transfer. These countries, yes, sadly, even though we should have advanced more than this, we need technology transfer. We do not, if we're saying that, just like you said, the Senate has approved 30%, this, that, we must process these materials locally before exporting it. He said we don't even have electricity. We're generating below or not more than 5,000 watts. How is that even possible? Do we even have the technology to process these materials? Why are we exporting crude? Because we don't really readily have the technology to refine it. Dangote came and
that's what I was about to tell you. When you say we cannot, that's when Nigerians will show you that we can.
But this is only
so
Dangote.
If these laws are not put in place, how do we show you that we can?
True.
Talking about showing you we can, guess what? Mr. Shego is back online. Mr. Shego, welcome back. We had a network glitch. It's so nice to have you back, yes.
Sorry about that. It's part of what we're talking about, isn't it?
Well, even at the CNN, these glitches happen. Please, can we give Nigeria some credit? I'm very pro-Nigerian.
True. Very.
Not the only Nigeria they sees, you see? Yes.
All right, Mr. Shegun, final question. Do you think African countries will begin to push for technology transfer, industrial support, and not just market access?
Yes, absolutely. I think, and the crazy part of this is that we actually do have those policies. Most African countries have some sort of technology transfer conditionality, with most of the activities, trading activities, loans, even when we talk about bilateral loans and all of that. There's always a technology transfer, expertise transfer component, but they're never really implemented in a manner that will result in sustainable progress along the lines that those policies were designed for. So I think that we need to be more deliberate. We need to be more intentional as a continent, as a country, in taking full advantage of whatever it is, whatever engagements that we're having with any bilateral partner, or even if it's a multilateral, partnership. We need to take better advantage of those engagements and those interactions to move the needle significantly further with regards to any of the major indicators that we're talking about. So whether it's technology, whether it's economic growth, across the different sectors, we're just simply not doing enough with regards to taking the most that is available for us on the table. We leave too much on the table every time that we engage with other stakeholders across the globe, and that's down to leadership. If you have purposeful leadership, if you have leadership that is visionary, if you have leadership that understands where it's going, then these things will happen. So that's why I keep talking about the leadership issue so much. It's something that we need to fix as a continent. It's something we need to fix as a country, so that we can look back 20 years from today and see significant progress. If you look back today from where we are today and look back to where we were 20 years ago, it's painful to say, but we haven't moved significantly in any of the things that you want to just pick any issue and benchmark it. If anything, you find that it's been more of a retrogression. So when are we going to look back 10, 15, 20 years and see that we're far better off today than we were 20 years ago? It's something that it's food for thought, I think, for all of us as Nigerians, and something we need to be asking and demanding of our leaders more consistently so that we can see some sort of sustained and sustainable development and progress.
All right, Mr. Sheon Sopitan, I'm so excited and I'm so happy, and thank you so much for making this conversation seamless, brilliant, and amazing. I totally had a good time. I'm sorry, Mr. Shegun. What about you?
It's been an amazing, eye-opener, thought-provoking conversation. Thank you very much.
And again, Shegun, please forgive me. My son's name is Sheon, so I seem to just run. And he's as handsome as you are, so maybe that's what's confusing me.
Thank you. Thank you for kind words. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Swift and Olumide.
Have a beautiful day. All right, so before we run back, we're talking about let's just do our own 1 minute run off before we go. So we're talking about the fact that, look, if you don't push Nigerians, we never see it. From education to sports, we see our boxers who train in Nigeria. Now, compared to footballers, basketballers, who most of the time is over there, we see our boxers, our weightlifters, who have had the privilege of winning gold medals, even as far as the Olympics, who train in Nigeria, brought up, bred, shredded in Nigeria, doing so well. My take is sometimes if you don't push Nigerians, we do not realize that, look, we have that potential.
Well, I think it just boils down to leadership. If you have good leadership, I mean, U.S., why is U.S. where it is? Good leadership. Trump is saying America first. Trump is saying, let's think, let's do what is going to benefit our own country. He's talking tough on pharmaceutical companies. He's doing a whole lot. He's saying that, look, I want to focus on entrepreneurs. I want to focus on the economy, how to grow the economy internally than what you guys are offering us. So that is good leadership, and that is what we should also emulate. Yes, Trump might seem a bit harsh to other countries, but
yes,
he's thinking about his country first. So if we're actually thinking about our country, I think we're making some good decisions.
So there's some African countries, before I run away, that are having it hard. The tariffs are hitting them. We have countries like Lesotho. I was told that their only source of revenue is the export of their diamonds, and their major market is the United States. Imagine. And so you are looking at the fact that now, and fabrics, that these people, the close down of the borders and the tariffs is hitting hard on people. They are saying they are looking at job loss, they are looking at family starvation and all that. Is it, like you said, it's time for Africans to look inwards and realize that, look, our major markets cannot be exportation. We need to build.
You mentioned when we were talking about Ghana a while ago,
Yes.
that part of the way they were able to develop and make their currency strong is because they were trading with their material, their resources, which was gold. I think that's what Lesotho needs to start doing now. Instead of exporting, trade with diamonds. Diamonds
Yes.
are very special, very precious stone. So begin to trade with that. Maybe you will get, you have something that other people want. Trade with it instead of exporting it and doing what not.
Exporting it at, minimal.
Begin to trade with it. That is where technology transfer comes in. Partner with some of these foreign firms. China will be willing to do that. China is the bride. Africa is the bride. China wants to marry.
They want to marry everybody.
So I think, have a partnership with China. They bring in this technology. They bring all this. But there has to be some form of agreement.
Yes.
The labor force must be from the country. They bring in their equipment. They do all this. And there should be some sort of agreement. That's the way the country itself will develop. And I think nothing infuriates U.S. more to see some of their rivals, doing better than them. U.S., they like Yanga too much.
Talking about Yanga, guess what? It's time for us to walk out of the studio. I want to tell you, thank you so much for being part of us. We have totally enjoyed having you. Please ensure you follow on all our social media platforms at Souqnews TV. And that's one word. Like, post, share, and keep a date with us. Just Africa comes up from 8:30 to 9:30 from Mondays to Friday. My name is Swift Aderito. Like I say, buy Africa, think Africa, and be Africa. Yes, Shago. So I called you Shago again.
Pardon. All right, so on a final note, keep watching Africa and keep watching Just Africa. I am Olumide Shokoya. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Egypt is a living museum where the past and present come together in a remarkable dance, and it is more than simply a nation. Egypt, which is well known around the world for its pyramids, pharaohs, and the magnificent Nile, is still transforming its rich historical legacy into a vital source of economic expansion and pride in the country. Egypt is a vibrant African country that is leveraging its historical heritage, tourism, the Suez Canal, agriculture, and a growing digital economy to drive its future. Let's start with tourism, which continues to be Egypt's most valuable economic driver. Egypt is home to more than 1/3 of the world's antiquities, and Cairo, Luxor, Aswan, and Alexandria welcome millions of visitors each year. Beyond its aesthetic value, the Great Pyramids of Giza, the Valley of Kings, and the soon-to-open Grand Egyptian Museum serve as economic hubs that support employment, foreign exchange, and Egypt's place on the world cultural map. Egypt has recovered quickly despite international disturbances like the COVID-19 epidemic, with current tourism receipts surpassing $13 billion. However, as visitors all at history, international trade passes via Egypt's Suez Canal, one of the most important sea lanes in the world. The canal is a vital bypass
for international commerce, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea across a distance of 193 kilometers. Suez Canal tolls brings in billions of dollars for Egypt each year, more than $9 billion in 2023 alone, making the canal more than simply a historical site. It is a vital component of international trade. The Suez Canal Economic Zone, a center for commerce, logistics, and industry, was likewise fueled by the canal. Agriculture comes next, especially near the Nile. Important products including wheat, rice, cotton, and dates are grown in the lush Nile Valley and Delta. Citrus fruits, particularly oranges, which are highly sought after in Europe and the Middle East, are among Egypt's biggest exports worldwide. Innovations in irrigation and climate-smart farming are growing, and agriculture still contributes to national food security and rural lives. Infrastructure and energy are also changing quickly. By exporting liquefied natural gas to Europe and other countries, Egypt has established itself as a new energy center in Africa and the Mediterranean. This change includes the Zohr gas field, one of the biggest in the Mediterranean. In addition, Egypt is developing smart cities, high-speed rail, and new administrative capitals, while investing in solar energy through initiatives like the Benden Solar Park, Africa's largest. Not to be overlooked is Egypt's creative economy. The film industry in Cairo is sometimes referred to as the Hollywood of the Arab world, and pop culture in North Africa and the Middle East has long been influenced by the Egyptian literature, music, and television. Young Egyptian creatives are already establishing new industries, such as tech companies and fashion. Thanks to the growth of social media and digital storytelling, Egypt has geopolitical weight due to the advantageous location at the intersection of Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Its position as a continental power is further supported by its participation in peacekeeping missions, commercial agreements such as COMESCA and the African Continental Free Commercial Area AFCFTA, and regional diplomacy. However, the way Egypt skillfully combines innovation with tradition is what really makes it stand out. It is one of the few African countries where a more than 5,000-year-old civilization still shapes its economy and reputation outside. Egypt continues to leverage its history to forge a strong and aspirational future, whether it's a software entrepreneur in Cairo, a relic in a museum, or a ship across the Suez. This is Just Africa, and I am Chike Okolo.
We're going to have increase in the number of facilities that we would visit in the year 2025 by 30%. We would have improved compliance and enhancement of data-driven decision making using data analytics. We're going to strengthen collaboration between our partners, and we're going to have 25% increase in our compliance rates by carrying out the key strategies. We want to expand our monitoring coverage. We want to enhance our digital infrastructure by integrating a secure online pathway. We also want to include the e-learning platform and our mobile platforms on the digital infrastructure. We want to strengthen our community engagement and build capacity of both the farmer staff and our partners. We want to drive innovation and research. This year, we want to carry out research on quality of care. In doing all of this, we want to make the health facilities in Lagos safer by leveraging on technology and ensuring that all our processes are data-driven. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Onoriede, Dr. Nibo Shinowo, Dr. Veronica Iwayemi, and Dr. Abiola Idowu. Your Excellency, the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, the Honorable Minister of State for Health, Dr. Isiaq Salako. Taking us further in the comparative study, I want to especially welcome a professor and consultant medical parasitologist at the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. He coordinates the International Malaria Microscopy, RDT Quality Assurance Center, as well as the country's World Health Organization malaria specimen collection sites in the College of Medicine, University of Lagos. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's put our hands together for Professor Wellington Oyibo for the very short comparative study. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, His Excellency, Executive Governor of Lagos State, the Honorable Minister of Health, here represented here by the Minister of State for Health. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, this is historic for us. This is a path we have planned, prayed for, and we are happy that it is happening. Mr. Governor, thank you for all you do and for making this happen, my staff. I'm so happy and grateful to the Honorable Commissioner of Health. He has told the story. So I'm going to build on those stories as I make this presentation. I don't have much time. And part of the whole thing is the advances that Lagos State has made for over 2 decades. The world is hearing it, and the signature of this project through the impact project itself, which is calibrated around the impacts that this project will be again for Lagos State. My slide, please. So what we know about malaria, in the 15th century, why was it called malaria? It was called malaria because the cause of that fever illness was not known. And it was connected to marshy waters. So malaria in Greek is foul. And that was all they could do. And it took some another 100 years before it was connected to mosquito bites. And today we are talking about fever and say all fevers are malaria. So are we going to the 15th century? And this is what we're trying to really unbundle in Lagos as it's still over 50 million people. My slides. So if fever is still malaria, we go back to the 15th century. And then, of course, for evidence base, meant that we will have to quickly provide the evidence. Can I have the slide up? Yes. So the horrible, let me just pull it out from here. So I've given this background. Most health workers will not accept the test results when it's negative. And that's the challenge. Next slide, please. Okay, and if you don't have data, which we are talking about digitization, you cannot calibrate where you are. And so if we look at the entire program and the plan of the projects, is to see that real-time data is available and that tests are done. And when the test is done, we can say quickly, cost-effectively, this is where we are. Because you can rely on routine data. The country do not have quality data, and that's the challenge. Next slide. So low confidence in the test. Basic things are being used. Lagos is making progress. How do we handle this? 94 to 96% of the reporting for malaria in the DHIS that categorizes states and Nigeria comes from the primary healthcare center and this from the public sector. It's important to recognize this. Next slide. And we're bringing this on board because we provide the quality platform for quality diagnosis at the College of Medicine. Next slide. And we do all of this carefully to ensure that these tests are good to be used for humans. Next slide. And what is known? Please just keep on going on the slide, because I'll just go through them. There are changes in Nigeria in terms of malaria epidemiology. Next slide. And then we see from the 2021 malaria indicator survey where Lagos is next one. And you can see where we are here at 2.6% hopeful. And next slide. Good progress. And we're talking about the path for pre-elimination. We are on that path, and we are happy that this is being mentioned here today, and like I said, this signature, and in line with the stratification strategy and subnational tailoring by WHO. So we are quite on course on this. Next slide. And then you can see the different tests available. You can keep on hitting enter. You have microscopy that is powered by a human being. And then you have this rapid diagnostic test that is technology. But somehow we refuse to accept technology and we stay with humans with all the challenges. So that's what you see with microscopy. Just keep on pressing enter and all of this. And this is the test 15 minutes. The result is out. The other one will take any time. It will be 1 day. And then based on that, we have done the scoping assessment of facility in Lagos.
Recent times, cosmetic clinics. So we're finding it difficult. We have limited capacity to ensure monitoring of these facilities. We also have inefficient manual processes because our digital platform is unable to carry out some of the processes in the agency. We're sitting on a lot of data in the agency.
With AI to make sure that the test is actually having the results that the pharmacy or PPMD says it does. We then verify that the treatment, the appropriate treatment. And then in the impact program, we to the public health system for malaria-negative patients to ensure that they're getting the proper diagnosis that they need and have a better understanding of what other febrile illnesses patients might have. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so I'll just talk briefly about all of the other partners that are working on this as well. So we are working closely, of course, with the Lagos State Ministry of Health, which envisioned this work and brought us in to support on this, with NMEP, which is overseeing the work and providing technical oversight, with WHO, which is providing, again, technical support and facilitation, and then importantly with our private sector partners as well, so PCN, which is doing quite a bit of the regulatory oversight and ensuring the quality of care in a pharmacy setting, with SFH, which is enabling the supply chain, and then of course with LASHMA, which is to go quickly into the final results on why this is improved quality of care. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So the work is providing network expansion, innovative financing, integrated health systems, supply chain resilience, comparative research, and regulatory reform, leveraging all of these different partners that we've mentioned to ensure that patients are able to access quality care and that the data is being provided back to Lagos State to help improve regulatory support, policy, and other things. I've mentioned the partners that we have here already, but we're very grateful for all of the work that they are providing to ensure that there's quality of care in the private sector. And then finally, one final slide. To reinforce what Dr. Wellington said earlier, the work that is being done is also to be supporting with testing, understanding the difference between rapid tests and microscopy, to support on policy reform to ensure that rapid tests are always done before treatment for malaria in Lagos State. Thank you all so much, and we're very excited to be a part of this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jessica Venom, the CEO, Vice Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, taking us further, Nina Obunafo. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Your Excellency, sir. We're very happy that this is happening today. So just believe me, to do something unique in terms of our focus for malaria control in Nigeria. To do this, I will call on Dr. Dao, Country Director for Volta. We're going to have the Honorable Minister interested for malaria. Okay, Honorable Minister, please. Thank you very much. This is the main focus for malaria control in Nigeria, which we refer to as the 3 T's. Your Excellency, the first T stands for tests. We cannot overemphasize or we cannot underscore the importance of that. The second T, sir, is for treatment. Cannot have His Excellency and the Minister of Health standing for long, so once we take their samples, we're going to have them seated again. So can I have Dr. Walter on stage to come and quality check what is happening, sir, please? Thank you very much.
We are witnessing leadership by example. Leadership by example by Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, as well as the Honorable Minister of State for Health, Dr. Salako. Please, let's appreciate them. That is the way to go for every one of us all.
Thank you very much, Your Excellencies. So again, this is the way to go for malaria control program in Nigeria. The pre-elimination in Nigeria could commence in phases. We could commence pre-elimination in Nigeria in phases. Thank you, Your Excellencies. Thank you. So back to the fourth bullet on my slide. Your Excellencies, pre-elimination in Nigeria could be commenced in phases. It could start with the states, Lagos State, for example, and we could go geopolitical zones. So I was sitting with my sister, the Commissioner of Health from Ogun State. So the fever for